Welcome to the Beautiful Step Podcast,
where we
run,
stomp,
tiptoe,
and tango into the confusing
but beautiful
world of togetherness. We are your hosts, Kris
and Charity.
Now, let's go make our together even better. Back in the studio.
Yay!
Back in Vegas.
So nice to have you home.
Our voices sound better.
On the microphones.
Yeah. Instead of the lapel mic. Now, I would say we probably will go back to the lapel mics because I know you don't like headphones.
Well, it's just more fun to just talk without all the headphones and stuff. But it sounds cool with the microphones.
And you look great.
You too.
And I feel really confident. It was a good summer.
Yes, you got to build a house with your boys for your son.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I feel confident. I'm really strong.
You are.
You love the way my body turned out. I lost weight. I'm looking just yoked. Yes. Feeling good, right?
I like it. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
You keep complaining about being sore so that you get rubs.
Yeah, I get rubbed down a lot. I'm sore, okay?
Really? I think you're just making up the
I'm tired and I'm sore. That's what gives me the glow.
Yeah, beware everyone of the soreness excuse.
No, I am still sore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I need a little bit more, rub down. I need it one more time. Just one more time on this side over here.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then I'd feel better.
Okay.
And you like it too. You do?
Mm-hmm. I have little tiny hands, little tiny massage hands.
Tell the world how much you love to rub me down.
I do love you.
No, tell the world how much you love to rub me down.
I do love to rub you down. Mm-hmm.
I know you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is all just manipulation right here happening.
No, I'm sore. My back hurt too.
Yeah, my back hurt. My brow too tight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what are we talking about?
We're talking about, you know how we did that podcast on resentment, and we were like, hey, resentment actually, we think, according to Brene Brown, comes from envy.
It can. If you look at it in that view, it's really fun.
Mind-blowing.
It starts to go dimensional quick, and you start to really get some good checks on yourself. Yes, we got a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah, in that episode, I talk about how it was like really eye-opening for me, but I think other people felt like it was eye-opening for them as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we got to talking about, like, are there other things that come out in relationships? Like, resentment is one that comes out often in relationships. Like the Gottman Institute is always saying, like, you can tell a marriage is going to end if there's contempt.
He's like 90% certain that a marriage is going to end if there's contempt.
Which is basically resentment, just coming out in communication. Right. So, but anger is another one that, as we've counseled couples over the years, it's like anger is a big issue. And it's usually like, the woman's complaining that the man's angry. And
well, it's because every young man rages. Not every young man, but you know what I mean? Like most of my guy friends, if you talk to their wife, they're going to like pull you aside and be like, he's got a real anger problem.
Well, you had a very bad anger problem.
Whatever. Mine was, I'm trying to normalize it.
Okay. Well,
we all get a little angry, Chair.
I think the thing is, when you are with someone that expresses anger different than you, it's kind of scary. So like you had a different way of, I could be angry too, but express it different. I mean, I think a lot of women are like passive aggressive in their anger, or like it might come with the silent treatment.
You think?
Or like all these subtle cues, whereas men might rage.
We're a little more, I think just very stereotypically, a young man is going to be raging, and a young woman might be more passive aggressive. Right?
Yeah, it probably has a lot to do with the testosterone.
But again, there are women who rage.
Totally. Okay.
And it's scary.
Do you think it's more scary for a woman who's raging? Like, is it more?
A raging woman is way scarier than a raging guy.
Really? I would say no way. A raging guy is way scarier.
People should email on us on this because I don't know. A raging woman is pretty scary.
Well, when I think about the damage that could be done, I'll immediately go to like the destruction that could happen with anger, which I think is the point, right?
Okay.
Anger makes you. It has a thing about it that is destructive in nature.
Well, I think that is its whole goal.
Ooh, what do you mean by that?
So in my understanding of anger is a force.
Okay.
That is out to destroy something. It's a very, very powerful force,
Mm-hmm.
emotion
Yeah.
that is out to destroy something.
That's its aim.
That's it. Like, I don't even
It's like
know.
on a mission.
Let me just say this. Okay, let me just say this. I don't know that it is out to destroy something, but guess what? It will destroy whatever is in its path. That's the whole thing anger does. Okay, so maybe we'll say it that way. Here's what anger accomplishes: destruction.
Yes. And that's the intention.
Right.
Whether you acknowledge it or not.
Whether you acknowledge it or not, or whether you intend for your anger to destroy or not, it's the outcome of anger is destruction. So but oftentimes that's very useful.
Yeah, sure.
To have such a powerful force, a powerful emotion in your life that if I direct this at whatever I direct it at, it's going to pulverize it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a laser. It's just going to destroy it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's good.
But not if it's like towards a person.
Of course not.
But oftentimes that's how it is done. Like that's where you're aiming.
That's why you have to be careful with what you aim it at or who you aim it at.
Yeah. So we were talking about but anger in it of itself, is that really the root? Like, why are you angry? Like, when we were first married, the shit you would get angry about, I did not understand.
Okay, so let me just back up.
Okay.
Let's just stop right there. Okay, so usually, I think I'm about to relate to everyone.
Oh, okay.
When you are in a fight
Mm-hmm.
and you're fighting with your partner,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of times, even mid-fight, you go, oh, wait, I kind of remember what we're fighting about. Or I kind of remember what I'm angry about, but I'm forgetting. Or you look back on it, right? On a fight, and you go, I don't even remember what we were fighting about, but I know it was really bad.
Well, you might not remember, and you would never voice like, I don't remember right now why we're fighting. But there's something else that's derailed the conversation where you're like, well, yeah, that's the reason, that's the motive. There's something bigger here.
Right, but here's the reason why I'm saying you don't even really remember what you're fighting about. Mm-hmm. And it's because I truly believe that people get angry for really, really dumb reasons.
Do they though?
Okay, well let me just give you an example. I would be, and everyone's going to relate to this. I would be livid if I couldn't find my keys. Or, after 5 minutes or 7 minutes or 9 minutes or 10 minutes, I'm just going absolutely nuts at this point where I'm like, I get angry at stupid stuff.
Okay, but let's back that up. Because what I see your point that on the surface, getting mad about not being able to find your keys might be a silly thing.
It's dumb.
Except for the fact that if you didn't need your keys to get somewhere important, that wouldn't be like the issue. Like, who cares then? If you wouldn't be angry about it if you didn't need your keys.
Right.
The point is that you actually needed your keys for something more significant, which I would say is that anger is stemming from fear of like, I can't get to where I need to go. I don't have control right now. Things aren't, excuse me, at my disposal. Mm-hmm. Like, it's stemming from something different than just like, oh, I can't find my keys.
Right. I got you.
It's a deeper thing, or else, because I think anger acts as a magnifying glass. It's really just one of those warning light indicators that's telling you like, hey, you're acting crazy about this because there's something underlying that you're really scared about.
Okay. So I'm going to put this together.
Okay.
Because I've heard this said, and I believe this is true, that people get angriest about what they love the most.
I would say that that's true.
You're going to get angry about what you love the most, which is, when I heard that, then I asked myself, why the hell am I getting so angry about my keys then? Like, it made me, when I would get angry, instantly go, am I being petty? Is my heart totally wrapped around stupid stuff that doesn't matter? Mm-hmm. Like, that's a huge diffusion of anger. Like, I just started to realize, oh my goodness, sometimes your anger is just betraying how,
shallow.
Immature.
Yeah, immature.
Immature. You really are. You truly are.
Yes.
You know, and that was a big check for me, where I was like, oh my goodness. So let's just start there. If I get angriest about what I love the most, then why the hell am I getting so angry about my keys?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It helps. I mean, it helps me to go, okay, all right. You know, like,
Which
I'm just being petty.
Yeah. Which actually, even this summer, you and I had a talk about, like, we found we were just in a really kind of a constant state of frustration at the time. And we found that we were like kind of bitching about everything that happened. Like,
I was getting grumpy.
It was like, and by identifying that and just saying, okay, let's just diffuse that by like, let's not respond in a grumpy way to the littlest things.
Because I'm being petty.
And I noticed that when we stopped doing that, it kind of just de-escalates everything. If you just realize, like, okay, I'm just not going to let myself express, even if I'm feeling it inside, just removing the expression.
Right.
Not like biting your tongue, not letting yourself express that, just lets you do that.
I think that is, to me, that's one of the biggest tools, is to just sort of start there. For me, as I, you know, because you're right, I had an anger problem or whatever you want to call it, but I used anger in ways that it was just not useful.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the biggest square one ideas was, you're just being a little punk. You know, you're just being really petty.
Yeah.
You're getting angry about stuff that you're not even going to remember what you're angry about in 10 minutes, dude. Like,
well, you're trying to use it to control something.
Exactly. Okay, so here we go.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the point, is you were using anger to get your way because that was the way you knew to control the situation. That was the way you were brought up.
Right.
That was the expression you used, which if you're using it to control something, that means that you have fear that you're not controlling something.
Okay, so now we're getting into the weeds.
Which is what causes you to react that way.
Right.
So what are we afraid of? I mean, and that's what I would say. Like, if envy is the root of resentment, I would say fear is the root of anger.
I would say, okay, I would say that's true. I would say that if you're in a fight with your partner, right? And obviously, if you're in a fight, you're angry. I mean, there's an anger there. There's some anger going. I would think. I mean, unless you're like really well adjusted and self-aware, and you guys can just sort of, you know.
Then you're just faking that you're not angry.
Exactly. But the idea is, so again, what was your point? Anger?
That fear is the root of anger.
Okay. Exactly. So you have to ask yourself, in a fight, you have to admit, I'm fighting from fear right now.
Yes. Yeah.
The place I'm coming from is fear because I'm angry.
Yes. And fear is not always a bad thing.
Right.
Like, you know, from an evolutionary standpoint, like, we have fear as an indication because it tells us what to avoid. It's the warning signs, like, hey, pay attention right now.
Right.
Something's happening.
And that was the thing with the keys, is it wasn't so much that I loved my keys. It was fear of not being able to show up to work, or fear of, it's like I'm being terrorized.
Yes. So you have a thing that you used to, I remember when you used to like preach about anger, you had this thing where you would say, like, you should ask yourself 3 questions.
Yeah. And one of the first ones is, what are you so afraid of? If you're angry, you should ask yourself, hey, yo, dude, what are you so afraid of?
Right. Which is hard to get to at that moment.
You can't in the moment because you're trying to feel all powerful. So you're not going to intentionally go, I'm being weak. Because here's the thing about anger is, when you're helpless, when you can't find your keys, you're helpless, man. It's like, I need God to manifest the keys in front of me so that I can move on. Yeah. Like, you're totally helpless. And so what happens is, a helpless person, the one thing they want to do is feel powerful.
Yes.
And anger is such a powerful emotion. So here's the thing, is anger isn't an expression of how powerful you are.
Although you feel like it.
It's not an expression of how powerful you are. It's an admission of how helpless you feel.
Yes.
That's really the big idea behind anger. And so anger, and that was one of the big things, is, okay, so if I'm angry and I'm raging, I'm, first of all, check. Am I being just a petty little punk here? Like, how small are my desires, right?
Yes.
And then the second one is, wait, what am I afraid of?
Yeah. If it's not just an immature,
because I'm feeling helpless.
Yeah, if it's not just, I think what you're saying is like I don't even know if it's petty as much as like immature. Like if you could recognize and go like, am I just being immature right now and just kind of letting myself like have tantrums?
Yeah.
Then I probably just need to solve the tantrums. But if there's really something going on, I should be asking myself like, what am I afraid of, really?
And that is kind of the whole question. Number one is, dude, what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
What are you afraid of?
So what are you afraid of?
Right.
And so this comes up, I think, oftentimes in a fight. There's a fear of losing control of someone or something, or like you can't have your way. And so you're afraid of not having control over your life. You're afraid of how something is going to make you look.
Ooh.
I mean, all of those things are ways that you can like express anger, but it's really just a fear of something else going on. I mean, as a mother, I remember probably the times I was the most angry towards my children was a fear that I wouldn't be able to accomplish what I thought I needed to be as their mom. I wasn't going to be able to protect them, or I wasn't going to be able to, or what they were doing would like, it would hurt my image.
Right.
All of those things were fear based.
Yes.
Which, again, is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's super important during the moment and even as you're processing to slow down and go,
what are you
let me identify what is happening right now. Why am I acting angry?
Yes. Why? Yeah. Why am I so fearful?
Yes.
And again, like tripling down on the idea is fear isn't necessarily bad.
Yes.
But you can't just live in fear.
No. Because that'll eat you alive.
Right.
And who wants to do that? But it's at least to be a self-aware enough person to go like, there is something here that's driving this. And I think the expression of that is the first start. Like if I can slow down and say, I am angry right now because I'm afraid that this is jeopardizing this. And if you can say that to each other in relationship or even to your kids, that's a really helpful start.
Yeah, that's super good.
So what's the second question?
So I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I kind of want to get there.
Okay.
I sort of want to get there.
Okay.
So here's just another aspect of anger that I've learned is, okay, so it's a little bit hard to explain, but this is the best way I can understand it. And this is probably the most one of the more helpful things is that anger is destructive.
Yeah.
Right. It's that force that's destructive.
Yeah.
And whatever you aim it at is going to be pulverized. So don't aim it at people.
Right.
Right. Don't, or just say this, aim it at the right thing.
Yes.
Right. And here's the reason why. And I love the way that you put this. Like you can kind of think of it as a gun or you can kind of think of, because guns are powerful, man.
Really powerful.
Or like a laser beam or something like you can, or a bomb. And so by nature, anger is moving.
Yes.
It's fluid. It should never take up residence. It should never just sit in you, right? Because if anger takes up residence like in your heart, it will kill you. It will destroy you because it just can't help but destroy.
So are you saying like if you have anger and it's starting from you, it's starting from whatever vantage point, then if you don't get it out of you, it'll kill you?
Yes.
Okay.
I would just say that if you don't aim it at the right thing, if you don't recognize it, and you sort of stay angry, whether you're a stuffer, you're just stuffing that anger, you just like, you never admit that you are, you never sort of get to the bottom of it, then yes, it will destroy something. And that something is your heart. Yeah. Yeah. Your vantage point, your relationships, because you're just an angry person at that point. Like and it's not designed to sit. It has to move. It has to sort of find its target and move along. Because you're saying because it's a force that has to have an end. Yes, it's a force that has to have an end. And the Bible even talks about this. I mean, everyone's heard, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. And so you have these people who take it literally, and they're like staying up until 4 and 5 in the morning and never getting to the bottom of it. And it's like, that's not really the point. The point is that it should have a life. It should have a term. It should have a shortness to it. A resolve. A resolve. It needs a resolve. Thank you. Yes. Anger needs a resolve. Anger needs a resolve. In justice or in empathy. Yeah.
which I think we'll kind of unpack what we mean by that.
Right.
But you're saying it has to go somewhere.
It has to move along.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was just one of the things that I think is a really important point about anger.
Mm-hmm.
But back to this idea of, we get angriest about what we love the most.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my questions, the second question is, okay, if I'm really angry, what is it that I am trying to protect here?
Yeah. What are you defending?
What are you defending? Because you'll defend to the death.
Yeah. So that first question was, what am I fearful of? Like, what's really
what are you
going
so
on
scared
here?
of, man?
But then it's that, to drill down even further, like, what am I trying to protect and preserve?
What am I protecting? What is it that I'm so in love with right here? Yeah. And a lot of times it turns out, well, it's my own will.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's my agenda, or it's my, but sometimes it's a person. Sometimes it's an idea. Sometimes it's a trajectory.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, sometimes really, really good what you're trying to protect. Most times it's good.
Yeah. But you will defend it to the death if it's something that's really valuable to you, which is, the escalation.
Either I'm going to destroy the thing that I'm defending against, or it'll kill me.
Yeah.
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 Because it's a really, really powerful force.
Yes. So that's a really helpful thing to look at. And it's helpful to go, I shouldn't answer this like I'm some altruistic good person. I should answer it really honestly. Like, am I really trying, like if I was making a decision about the kids and I answered that question of like, okay, what am I afraid of right now? Okay, well, I'm afraid of that they're in unsafe circumstances. Like, let's say, they go to a party or something like that. And I'm like, I need to like figure this out. Okay, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of that they would be unsafe. I'm afraid that they'll get harmed. But I also need to admit that like, I'm afraid that maybe they'll do something that'll come back on me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid that somebody else will have an opinion about it. I'm afraid of all that stuff. Who will see them? What will happen? And then you have to ask, what am I defending? Well, I'm kind of in some ways, my reaction to this is a defense of my image.
Right.
Is a defense of like my control of my children.
Right.
Like, do I feel like I am, an authority figure?
Right.
All of those things come into play when you're looking at like, what am I defending and what am I fearful of?
Yeah.
And it would be very, very easy. And I feel like I did this all the time. It would be very, very easy to just go, I'm just being a good mom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the reason. It's all just based on, I want to protect. And I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a lot of my own image mixed in there.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond just like the protection and the safety of my children.
And I think what's really helpful about this question is that when a friend of yours or your kids or your spouse, I mean, when it's not you fighting with each other, it's really helpful. It's just a helpful question.
It is. It's very.
And it'll help someone sort of unpack like, oh, yeah, I guess I am angry that this makes me look bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But by the time you get down to the end of the conversation.
Yeah. And then I think that last question I remember you saying was like, what am I trying to destroy?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something, do I have my missile aimed for a certain path? And like, am I misguided in it?
Right.
I often think of like myself, like I would be angry at a certain thing and then not really realize I was really angry about something else. And I think that, for instance, in that particular example I'm giving, I might be angry at my kid for sneaking out and going to a party. Right. And so I'm taking it out of my kid. And I'm like, the missile's pointed at the kid.
Right.
But really what it is that my anger is wanting to accomplish is the destruction of my fear of not having control of kids or my fear of like ego stuff, all of that. So our missiles for what we intend our anger to destroy are often misguided.
Right. And they are doing damage.
Yes.
They're doing damage, dude.
If they're pointed at the wrong thing, if we're not having those honest conversations, then all of a sudden we can justify all of our anger and our actions and say like, oh, I had a right to be that. And then we're alienating people in our life. We're making so our kids don't trust us and we're not safe people because we're acting out of anger. All of those kind of things are happening as a result of those misguided targets.
And back to the idea. So, Jonathan Edwards was a theologian. And he has all of these. What?
Sorry, I'm not. Not a fan.
He has all of these resolves. I think it's 70 some odd resolves. I think I might have said this one before, but his resolve, one of them, is to never get angry at an inanimate object.
Oh, okay.
Like, why would you get angry at an inanimate object? This is very Buddhist as well.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is, I find myself getting angry at inanimate objects. And it really does show. I used to say, and I often will still say, it just shows how dumb I am. Because there's nothing I'm going to do to that object to make it any different than it is.
Yeah, that's a fruitless venture.
And what happens is, like, if you're angry at an inanimate object, you usually try to destroy it.
Yes. Yeah. You're going to throw it against the wall.
Yeah. Like on the job, Cole wasn't around or whatever, but he picks up this tape measure and it's like all broken. And he's like, dude, what happened to this tape measure? And I was like, Jonathan Edwards, man, I'm sorry, but here's the thing is it's like this 35-foot tape and it'd been raining for months, right? And it had gotten rusty, like on the sides. And so when it would recoil, it wouldn't recoil quite right, but then it would recoil at these weird times and hit me in the face. It was like a big metal tongue licking me across the face and causing like scorpion type pain. Ow. And it only and you're on like a scaffold, right? So you're way up in the air.
Oh,
and there was just
this sounds terrible.
There was just one time where I just got real angry at that inanimate object and I threw it to the ground, and I threw it to the ground with the force of God. And I'm like, the thing that I didn't ask myself was, what are you fearful of? But if you kind of double it all the way back, it is an expression of just sort of how helpless you feel.
Yes.
You're not going to, it didn't make me feel powerful to break the tape measure. I looked at it and go, man, I spent $35 on this thing. Now I don't have a tape. You know what I mean? Like, why did I do that? That's so dumb.
But at the time, you had to take action.
Right.
Which you keep saying, like, anger will drive until it has,
yes,
it takes action somehow.
And here's the whole thing. Here's the whole thing. And this is, I think, the craziest part, is I think that what anger accomplishes is destruction. But what it really wants is empathy.
Wow. Okay, unpack that for me.
Okay, so it will cause destruction. But it's only sort of cure. And really what it really, really, really wants, and the only way it will sort of produce anything real, is the end of it is empathy.
How does that work?
So I'm smashing my tape measure to the ground.
Yeah.
And all I wanted was someone to walk up, put their hand on my shoulder and go, dude, you're probably so tired right now. You're probably you're up here on the scaffold and you have been working, 14 hours a day or whatever. And the last thing you need is this thing smacking you in the face.
Let me give you a different tape.
Or you got it, man. You can use this tape for a couple more days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know that would have ended that anger. I wouldn't have smashed the tape.
Yeah. Wow.
And so the thing that I think that anger wants, if anger could want, if you could.
If it's a force, it wants something.
Right. All it wants is empathy.
Yes.
And which is why when you're in a fight with your spouse or your partner or whatever, the only end to it is empathy.
I love this thought. And it's with your children, like anyone you're fighting with. And the empathy that's needed or that could potentially dissolve the anger or de-escalate the anger could be on either part. And I love where you're taking this. Like you're taking okay, I'm angry and someone having empathy on me de-escalates my anger and potentially just dissolves it right in front of me.
Right. I'm just kicking and screaming and everything just like a baby. And then you get a big hug and you're like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I needed that.
You were needing that from somebody, which is, we can take that and go like, oh, when someone in your life is acting really angry, they are in need of someone saying, hey, I see that you are looking for empathy right now.
I see you there. I see your plight. I see what's going on. I understand how much this means to you. I understand how fearful you are. I understand how much you think is at stake. I understand all of that.
Yes.
That's a big move.
It's a big move. And you could also use it on yourself. Because at the time, you probably couldn't identify that that was what was happening.
Right.
But you could have, with yourself, said, and given yourself self-empathy and said, I need to let myself have a break right now. I'm kind of freaking out because I need a break and I'm not able to really assess. And so I need to give myself some empathy right now and not keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And I just need to let it rest and let this de-escalate and let this anger dissolve.
Right.
So the empathy could be someone giving you empathy, or you giving yourself empathy, or you giving someone else empathy.
You giving someone else empathy, right? So here's the trick. This is the trick. Or let me just say this is the tricky part.
Okay.
Before you can get to the actual trick. But the trickiest part is we've already established this, that anger is not an expression of how powerful you are, but it's an admission of how helpless you feel. So when you're angry, you're not going to have the presence of mind to like lean into your helplessness. Because the one thing you want when you're angry is to feel powerful.
Yeah.
Which is why you smash the tape measure. Which is why you raise your voice. And in my psyche and in my world, there's this sort of inevitability to anger. It's like, damn it, it's going to happen. It's just I'm going to be angry. And I mean, have you ever met a person who wants to be angry? They don't want to be angry. I mean, unless you're an MMA fighter or something, you're using it.
But even then, I don't think as a person you want to be an angry person.
You don't
That's like
want
the biggest
to be
insult.
angry. But the hardest part is that I just want to level with every human being on the planet. You're going to get angry.
Yeah.
You're going to get angry. You're going to want to feel powerful. And when the tantrum's over, you're going to have less and less. I mean, I have less and less tantrums. I usually have tantrums when I feel either exhausted or in pain. Those are the two biggest times when I'm like actual rage tantrum. Like either I'm exhausted or I'm in deep pain.
Oh, it's kind of like our kids when they were little, like they'd
Right.
start to lose it and you're like, oh, okay, you must be so tired.
Exactly. And the cure is the empathy. Like somebody give me a break or somebody give me a pain pill or whatever, whatever that is. But I guess what I want to say is I want to empathize with all of the angry people out there. It's like, it's not a sin to be angry. I mean, even the Bible will say that, right? It's like, be angry, but don't sin in your anger. You know what I mean? And so what I'm getting at is there's this idea that you're going to be angry, but if you have the tools to know what it's going for and know how it works, then what you can do is later go to someone who was in the path of your destructive anger, and you're going to be able to go, I know how destructive that was, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know that you're ever going to not be angry again. Am I making sense?
So. I don't think so. But
Okay.
But you can mitigate anger in the sense that
you can grow up.
You can be less, you can be more mature.
Right.
You can ask yourself those questions. What am I really trying to protect? What am I trying to defend? What am I afraid of right now?
Right.
How come I'm feeling helpless? And are there other ways to find power than deploying anger?
Yes. That's good.
But your point that I love is like, if you haven't yet gotten it and mitigated it, then it will have to have a path that it's on.
Yes.
And that path will be destructive.
Yes.
Until you figure out, like, I'm pointing that at the wrong thing or person, and I need to kind of make amends. So you mentioned that Bible verse, like, in your anger, don't sin. Well, that would be the sin part of it if you were, if you believed in that construct. Like, that would be the thing that you did wrong. Like, you pointed it at the wrong person.
Yes.
You took it out in the wrong way. You threw the tape measure. You did all those things. Like,
can I just...
the destruction part.
Yes. Can I just do the inanimate object trick thing?
Oh. Okay.
So the idea is the reason why you shouldn't get angry at inanimate objects is because truly you're just angry at yourself.
Oh, is this a Jonathan Edwards thing?
No. It's the thing I discovered.
Okay. What does this mean?
You're just angry at yourself, because what you're doing is you're sort of expressing in that moment, obviously helplessness.
Mm-hmm.
You're expressing, you know, what you're angriest at the most, and you're not going to be able to change the tape measure. You can't heal it. You can't fix it. It's going to keep smacking you in the face. And what happens is and then you smash it or whatever, and you get angry at yourself, right? Or whatever for smashing it. But really, if you back up, you're angry that you weren't big enough to just go get a new tape. I'm being serious. Like they're like, when you're angry at an inanimate object, you're really angry at yourself, because what you're doing is there's things in your life that you really haven't taken responsibility for. There's things in your life that need fixing and you just haven't fixed them. There's things in your life that you're just kind of letting go for long enough to where, oh my goodness, now I have to kick the fucking door in. You're like, dude, should have bought a lock for that a long time ago. When you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really what you're doing, and this is just helpful for me, is when I'm getting really mad at inanimate objects, I know that there's some self-care I'm not doing. There's I'm angry at myself for not, being what I need to be. Yeah. And the end of that is empathy.
Yes. For yourself.
Yes. Self-care and being like, dude, take it down a notch, take a nap. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's sort of really the trick. Helpful. That's the trick for me. Is like, dude, you're not angry at a tape measure, you're angry at yourself right now.
Yes. I think that's very helpful.
And if you're angry at yourself, then the only cure would be empathy. Dude, I love you. You're a good guy. You're doing a good thing.
Yes. Yeah, and that is the way we de-escalate with our partners.
Yeah.
Just you can de-escalate it almost immediately if you go, okay, let's not take this to destruction. Its goal is to end in empathy. That's what it wants. Let me just give it to that. Let me satisfy anger right now. I'll satisfy by giving it empathy. I'll satisfy by giving myself empathy. I'll satisfy it by giving you empathy. Yeah. You'll satisfy it by giving me empathy. Yeah. That's how you actually dissolve it.
That's how you start to not have a real angry conversation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So if anger was an animal that was on a path to try to get its way, to try to destroy something, it was moving towards something that it wanted, the way you satisfy the hunger is empathy.
I love it.
Right?
That's all it's after.
That's all it's after.
That's what it's hungry for.
That's what we're hungry for too when we get angry. We're fearful of something.
And just like you were saying, though, is justice is a big thing. Injustice is one of the things that make you angry. Mm-hmm. That makes Charity Carmody angry.
Yes. Makes me so angry. But I could look at that and say, okay, there's lots of reasons for this injustice. And sometimes the reason I'm so angry is because I feel helpless to solve it.
Yeah.
And I get so angry because there's maybe elements of it that I see that I'm like, could I do something? Could I not do something? But again, it's stemming from that fear of is this never going to end? Am I not going to be able to solve it? Is this going to keep happening? All of these things are stemming from that. So if I can just give myself a break and say there's a reason that you're really upset about this. But what happens oftentimes, especially in issues of injustice, is we'll lump a group. We need a focus for the hungry animal, and so we'll mistakenly put a group of people, or a certain type of person, or a certain one thing that we're like, that's the target. That's the thing I want to destroy. Well, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Injustice, real injustice, has lots of roots. Lots of different roots coming from different things. Yeah. And there might be one thing that's making us really upset about it that we can't fix. But then we think, well, maybe that people group, they're doing something. And so I'm gonna focus it on them. But really it's the issue of and I think this actually happened with the Black Lives Matter movement. I saw a lot of white people, even friends of ours, that were deep down, there was this feeling of helplessness. What do we do as white people right now?
Sure.
How do we, what is all this?
Yeah.
And so it was really easy during that time. And even now, I think, particularly in the aftermath of all of that, is there's still a lot of helplessness because it's still going.
Of course.
Black people in America are still being discriminated against and
Of
being killed
course, yes.
uselessly purposelessly, whatever.
Purposely, yeah.
And that is a helpless feeling. And so some people in their helplessness, and the other thing is this admittance that like, wait, I have been a part of something unknowingly or knowingly that was harming people.
Right.
And I feel helpless. I don't even know how to stop that or to apologize enough for that.
Right.
Or like, what role do I take? All of these things cause helplessness.
Right.
And so some people took that feeling of helplessness and that feeling of fear, and they started to act out against certain people. And it was like, wait a second, you're just really afraid right now because you don't know what to do.
Wow.
You don't
Your
know how to
anger and your
respond.
rah is really just an expression of your helplessness and your fear.
Oh, I felt like the people who responded like, well, white lives matter too. Well, no shit. But that's not the point. The point is you said that actually because you're afraid because you don't know how to respond to this. And
Right.
it's scary and it's real. And like you might have some ownership in that. We all might have some ownership in that.
Yeah, that's good.
And you look at it and you're like, okay, my target might be other people, but really that's a misguided missile. Because really what we're trying to destroy is the fear, is the whatever it is that is causing police officers to shoot helpless
God help us.
Black people. Like this is what
Yeah.
we're needing to look at. But we often just misunderstand our anger and like misunderstand injustice, and so we'll start firing and think it's this righteous indignation or this righteous like anger, but really it's just stemming from this feeling of helplessness and like fear. And we just need to have in that moment we need to have empathy and go,
and it only ends in empathy. Yeah.
it only ends in empathy.
You're just going to keep being angry until you get empathetic, right?
Anger is not like it's not like you're gonna like if I'm angry and you're angry, it's gonna just resolve the situation. It'll just escalate.
A negative
more and more.
negative don't make a positive
No.
situation.
But the empathetic response in that situation is, God, I need to have empathy for you.
Yeah.
As my Black friends, it's like I need to have so much empathy right now because I can't imagine. I am now understanding what you have been going through.
Yes.
I am now just seeing a small glimpse of what you have been going through. And I feel helpless and upset.
Yeah.
Don't know what to do. And then I need to have empathy for myself and go like, okay, I am feeling really scared about who I am and what I've been a part of. And like, okay, I need to have empathy for myself right now.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But also like, how can this prompt me to change?
Yeah.
But either way, I think what it does is then goes to concern. Empathy, if it resolves in empathy, then you just have empathy, which is nothing but good.
Yeah.
Whereas anger, if you don't let it resolve, if you don't let it be satisfied in empathy, you just have tons of destruction.
That's good. Yeah.
So
That's
it's
just
that
the
misguided-
truth. That's the truth, babe.
It's that misguided stuff. And we do it in relationships. We do it about injustice. We do it about all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But we're just misunderstanding why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So the fear of anything
Yeah.
is probably the root of anger.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. So, and that's the 3 questions, right?
Yeah, give me the 3 questions.
Are very simple. Is when you're angry, you have to ask yourself. Well, first, I mean, this is sort of an addendum, but it's, this is for the youngest of young. Am I just being a baby here? Like,
right. Yeah.
am I just kicking and screaming? Am I just being adolescent?
Well, we all do
Am
that.
I being petty? Yeah. That's kind of already, I guess I understand I'm past that, but
Yeah.
the biggest first question is, what are you so afraid of?
Yeah.
What are you so afraid of? And then the second question, once you get sort of that established, is what is it that you're trying to protect?
Yeah.
What is it that you're, trying to defend here? Why are you defending this so, adamantly? Why are you putting your foot down here? What are you defending? And then the last one is, what is it that you would like to destroy? Or what is it that you're destroying in this process?
And what should you be destroying
And what
instead?
should you? Yeah, this thing is pointed and it's accomplishing destruction. And you have to ask yourself, what am I destroying here?
Is it doing what it's intended to do?
Right.
Is the end goal really targeted at the right thing?
Exactly.
Pointed at the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
I love it too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Salute.
Bye.
Bye. Wait, babe! Babe, wait! How do we end this?
By saying thank you.
Okay, you guys are awesome. Thank you. There's nothing more encouraging than you hitting that like button and commenting.
And don't forget to subscribe.
And I know there's more. You have a list. Might as well go down the list.
Right. Okay. Watch the video of this podcast on our Beautiful Steph YouTube channel or on our website where you can actually download transcripts and show notes of the episode. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
If today's episode made your together even better, tell someone.
Okay. Now.
Right now.
Today.
Okay.
You can take one step.
It's just one step.
Toward the beautiful relationship you want in your life.
You got this.